Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I'm your host, Henry Harris. Today we're going to go into session 10. We're going to talk about deconstructing religiosity without becoming bitter. I know many people who are in the deconstruction process, sometimes they do become bitter because of the pain that they've experienced and the things that they've experienced. But I'm speaking from experience that if I can deconstruct, and I was bitter at one time. Religiosity and religion itself made me bitter, but if I can do it, you can do it. So deconstruction, what is it? And how does it work? I believe that we need to talk about the process of deconstruction before we get to the part about bitterness and anger. All of us have been traumatized by religion, and we all have been wounded and we all have been hurt. Anytime someone causes pain in your life, depending on the level of it, there will be a reaction to that pain. If I cause a pain in your life, you're going to react to that. It's going to cause a certain type of reaction. You don't experience trauma and act like it never happened, or don't have certain emotions that come from that. It's okay to admit that you're hurt. It's okay to admit that you're angry about what happened to you. So I want to encourage you and let you know that it is normal to feel those type of emotions, and not only to feel those type of emotions, but also to express those type of emotions. After all, you were wounded. I will talk more about that later in the program today. But let's talk about deconstruction. Deconstruction is good. Would you relate to that? Deconstruction is good. It's not a bad thing. And actually, if you haven't tried it, I would encourage you to do it. The word deconstruct simply means, it means to demolish. It means to break down, or it means to analyze something. Since we are talking in the context of religion, I think it is safe to say that there are many things within religion that needs to be demolished. Would you agree? We need to keep in mind that it's not just about deconstruction, but also building. It's fine to deconstruct, but you need to also build at the same time. Build back up and rebuild to something that's much more valuable, meaningful, and more important. Many people today, they just focus on deconstruction, breaking it down, analyzing it, demolishing it, getting rid of it. That's good, but rebuild it with something much more productive. If you notice, deconstruction doesn't just mean to break down, it also means to analyze, which means to dissect, to take apart, or it means to examine. And in many cases, re-examine what you've been taught and why you believe it. I cannot speak for everyone else, even though I know many of you have had those type of experiences. But I can only share from my experience, and I know firsthand what deconstruction is like. I understand the process. I know what it's like to demolish it and basically to question everything that you once held dear. I know what that's like. And let me tell you, it's not a happy journey. It is a fearful journey, especially when you have been indoctrinated as a child. And in so many ways, you really don't know any better because that's what you were taught, not realizing that much of the toxic religious ideologies were harmful and damaging at the time. I mean, even to start the journey of deconstructing is difficult because that could mean that not only do I have to disown my religious beliefs I once admired or adhered to, but now I have to completely demolish it and get rid of it. In the context of religious trauma, that's what I needed to do in order to experience not only healing, but wholeness. It's just like bad food. You know, many of us, including myself, partake of bad food. But then you start to examine what you're eating, and then you have a change of heart, and you start to detox, and may I say, to clean your system out. This also can apply to religious trauma, that as we deconstruct certain beliefs that we may be thinking, we are actually examining, and there is an awareness that what I have been partaking all along is just simply not good for me. Have you been there before? It's not good for me. And I need a cleansing. I need to detox. I need to get rid of this. Why? Because it is hurting me. We are living in a time where this generation, whether you like it or not, they are rethinking not only Christianity, but they're rethinking religion altogether. These people are questioning everything. And while I am here, if you are associated with any ministry that makes you feel uncomfortable for asking questions, you may need to find yourself a new ministry to associate with. What happens when everything you once believed about God begins to crumble? What happens when you realize that you have been traumatized all this time? Many say feelings of guilt, anger, anxiety can accompany a period of deconstruction. I know this to be true because those very things accompanied me in my process. I had to examine my faith and my beliefs and theological deconstruction and call it all on the carpet pretty much, that nothing went unnoticed. Believe it or not, when I finally brought myself to the place of detoxing, that is when I felt free. And I really didn't care what others thought, of course. God gave me the strength to endure that, because there were times I did care what people would say or thought, or what they thought about my deconstruction process. I did care what they would think. In the process of rebuilding from deconstruction, I was confused, I was bitter, I was angry, and it was evident today that many are. That's what I was at that time. And I told you that in the beginning of the show that I would come back to this thought, and that is that there are certain emotions that comes from being hurt. That's normal. Don't ignore it. Don't suppress it. Don't pretend like it's not there. Don't pretend like it didn't happen. You were religiously abused. You were hurt. It is normal to experience these things, but you don't have to stay and live in that mentality. Confession is important, and confession just simply means I tell the truth. Many of us need to tell the truth, but we need to tell our own truth. I am not ashamed of my process and what I had to go through. I know this may not be everybody's experience. Some can deconstruct and not experience bitterness at all, but I did. I know many people today who have gone and are going through or will go through a gut-wrenching, excruciating pain and lonely season in their faith called deconstruction. Many of whom don't know how to identify with the emotions that they are feeling. I was hurt, I was wounded, I was traumatized. So now we feel that we have the right to be who we are. You do have that right, but don't stay there. One thing I did prior to deconstruction is I was not hardcore about my beliefs, but at the same time I was very forceful with my presentation. Be careful about the people who are forceful in their presentation. After my deconstruction, it actually got worse. Example, we bark all the time about religious people being so bitter and so frustrated and so angry and so forth, but we fail to see that many times it is us that are angry. we're not any different than the people that we're barking about, complaining about. No different than them. And I didn't really know what grace was. I was just following the trend. There are times where you may get triggered. I still do to this day. I have to catch myself before I say something or ask myself, what am I about to say, and what I'm about to say, will it really help someone? Many who say that they have deconstructed really haven't. And many are not fully healed as they claim to be. And if you're not, that's okay too. You can be healed. Sometimes it takes a process. Remember, it is a process. I can honestly say today that I am healed from the religious trauma of the past. And I'm free from all the bitterness that's associated with it. I am constantly evolving and growing and deconstructing. And not only deconstructing, I am rebuilding. In the absence of bitterness, in the absence of grief, in the absence of anger, I don't have to do that anymore. I can now speak from a place of wholeness. Remember when I was addressing a rather religious subject, there would be times where people were mistaking your passion for anger. They'll say, oh, he's angry or she's angry. And this can easily make you question your deconstruction process. Just realize that you're not the problem, they are. I remember when I was addressing a religious sensitive subject at one time, there was this lady who commented on my show who I didn't know. She said, Henry, I know you're hurting. You seem very angry. But the reality was I wasn't. So what made her assume that I was angry? And after reading it, I wondered, what gave her that assumption? So if we speak from a place that we once were and passionate about, that means I'm hurting. That means I'm angry. You see, you can't always pay your critics no mind. My beliefs shifted, and that which I held dear unraveled. I don't regret my deconstruction at all. Don't be afraid to rebuild. Rebuilding requires bravely finding your own unique path with God. You don't have to find somebody else's path or do it the way somebody else do it. Find your own unique path with God, and there are many ways to build something new. Rebuilding and replacing it with something much safer and meaningful. Join me next week as we go into session 11. We're going to talk about predators in the church.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.